one question was by a reporter who asked, he asked Prabhupada, yours is a very ascetic movement, isn't it? And Prabhupada says, no. And then he said, but isn't yours more a self-denial type of lifestyle? And Prabhupada said, no, we teach love of God. And then the reporter said that, but don't you think that, we've seen and we've heard that you're going to be taken away from here in a Rolls Royce? We'd previously hired a Rolls Royce with a chauffeur and everything like that. It wasn't a new Rolls Royce, kind of an old Rolls Royce, but it had the Rolls Royce label and everything, so it was quite significant to the press. And so Prabhupada said, well, we can use everything in Krishna's service. If someone offers me a Rolls Royce, why should I refuse it? He said that Guru is God's representative. Everything is meant to be used in God's service. So he said, Krishna, he rides in a gold chariot. And he said, what is this Rolls Royce? Some tin, some rubber, some wood? He said, I say it is not enough. That with all the devotees go, Jai Prabhupada. So I was thinking beforehand, this is, should we be doing this? Whose idea was this Rolls Royce? I was a little bit worried of what would people think about this, It's a little ostentatious, some vainglorious or something like that. But then, Prabhupada's answer was so bold that even the press, who are used to sort of being sharp and with a quick response and a quick reply to practically anyone, but there was just a silence. I mean, they were so shocked by Prabhupada's response that they just were flabbergasted. They just couldn't say any more. Jai Prabhupada, we paid our obeisances. Some silence, and Prabhupada said, Jai, chant Hare Krishna. And then Prabhupada got up and we had kirtan to the car. He went into the Rolls Royce and drove away. And after Prabhupada went back to the temple, actually he didn't go there. We had a house for him this time. And it was a Grihastha couple, their house, and they'd moved out and let Prabhupada come into that house and let Prabhupada stay there during his visit. Now, this house was kind of a modest house in a modest suburb, near the temple, not very far from the temple. And when Prabhupada arrived there, he came out and he walked in and he walked through the house and walked through the rooms, and he says, oh, very nice house. He said, how many families live here? And Ugrashrava, who was the devotee who lived there, he said, oh, only one family, Prabhupada. He said, oh, only one family, such a big house. So, I mean, from Western standards, it was nothing, but for Prabhupada. So, once, just previously, he was saying that a Rolls Royce is not enough. I say Krishna has the golden chariot, and then when we just take him to a modest house, he's saying that, well, it's such a big house. How many families live here? And the next year, I remember that when we first opened our new temple here in Melbourne, that when we brought Prabhupada up the stairs, we just finished renovating everything. The devotees have been working hard for weeks and weeks, and months actually, and brought Prabhupada upstairs and we showed him his quarters, which were quite well furnished, and parquet floor and chandeliers and low desk for Prabhupada's working, and we opened the door and I think Madhavisa said, Prabhupada, this is your room. And Prabhupada said, what, all this for me? This is all mine. And then we took him next door to his bedroom, which was a separate room. And Prabhupada said, oh, I have a bedroom also. So, I just, Prabhupada's personality was, materialists generally, they portray a certain type of mood and attitude, and they generally live on that level. And you don't see very many other sides to them. But Prabhupada, and I didn't see that many sides to Prabhupada. I didn't have that much intimate contact with Prabhupada. But the sides I did see to Prabhupada showed that how it was inexplicable on the ordinary level, that in one sense, he's accepting a Rolls Royce, and another he's saying, oh, all this is for me. It's something that's a quandary, really. I mean, a materialist couldn't understand it, but we understood it because we were devotees. He was our spiritual master. We understood Prabhupada's transcendental position. Prabhupada liked to walk out in the open, and especially here in Melbourne and also Sydney. He liked to go to parks a lot, and we took him to the botanical gardens here in Melbourne, which are quite famous. He thought that actually he made a statement that the botanical garden in Melbourne is better than New York Central Park. So he very much liked it. And I was quite amazed that when Prabhupada walked through the park, he knew a lot of things that would seem a person in his position perhaps wouldn't bother even speaking about, like what the names of the trees were. And Prabhupada would walk and he'd say, "This is a such and such tree," and then he said, "Go and have a look." Because in the park, all the trees had little kind of name tags. So he'd send someone over, and then the devotee would come over and he quite it was in Latin. They'd have the Latin name there, and he said, "What is that?" And he said, "Such and such in Latin." And they said, "But what in English?" And he said, "Yes, just see." So he would walk along like that. And that kind of surprised me. Oh, Prabhupada, he knows all these things. He knew about trees, he knew about flowers. He very much appreciated the beauty of the park. Also, I remember another time when we were walking, we were walking, it was early in the morning, I guess it was about 6 o'clock, and Prabhupada saw that Prabhupada saw that even at 6 o'clock there was heavy traffic going into the city, because these gardens were really close to the city. There was heavy traffic going into the city. And Prabhupada said, what is this traffic? And someone said, "Oh, they're all going to work, Prabhupada." And Prabhupada said, he stopped and he was silent, and he just said, "They are working so hard." And I could see his eye was a little moist, just the stage before a tear would come. He felt, you could feel that he felt so much compassion for these people that he was concerned that they were, even early in the morning at 6 o'clock, they were racing and rushing into work. And so they were working so hard. And then another time I think it was that same morning, he saw that some of the businessmen were driving their cars and then parking them right out at the Botanical Gardens, which was about 3 or 4 kilometres from the city. So he was asking, what are they doing? And someone explained that, Prabhupada, they park their cars here so that they can avoid paying parking fees in the city. And Prabhupada said, "Just see." He said, then he gave a story, he said, "A man can ride in a big carriage, but he can't afford to feed the horses." So everyone laughed. And it was so poignant at that point that here we have, someone driving a big car, big businessman wearing a suit and tie and a briefcase and everything, and then they park the car outside and have to walk 3 or 4 kilometres into the city to go to the office. Now, another time I remember going for a morning walk was where Prabhupada, we were walking, and actually Prabhupada used to walk, he would exchange greetings even with karmis. Someone would walk and someone would say hello, and sometimes he would just say hello, or he would say good morning. Well, other times he would say Hare Krishna. One time I remember a group of joggers jogged through. It was about half a dozen, maybe they were part of some club or something. They were jogging through, and after they jogged through, making very loud kind of sound, stomping with their sand shoes and breathing heavily. And Prabhupada stopped and he turned around to all of us and he said, "They are thinking by this exercise, they are increasing their life. But they do not know that with every breath, one only has a certain number of breaths in the life. Because they're exercising very hard and breathing more rapidly, actually they're decreasing their life." So they are thinking with exercise they are increasing, but actually they are decreasing. So these are some of the things that I remember from Prabhupada walking. Another time when we were just before we got this present temple we're in now, we took a Prabhupada for a morning walk along the beachfront, which is just near here, and we were showing Prabhupada the premises we'd been living before that time in a really small temple, just 4 or 5 kilometres from here, and it was so small that, hardly anyone could fit in there. So we were looking to buy another place, and so we were showing Prabhupada this place we were thinking about, and it was this huge kind of monastery or something. Some nuns were using it. I forget the name of the particular order. But and it was this huge property, like right on the beachfront road, which is one of the main arteries into the city, and had a big, huge wall on the boundary, and you could see over the wall and the convent and the chapel and all the other buildings. It had a large number of buildings on the property itself. So at that time, I think they wanted like over $1 million, which back then was a lot of money. I mean, it must have been at least 10 million these days. So, I'm thinking, someone had the idea, or a few devotees had the idea, maybe perhaps, we should try to get this property. And I'm thinking, we'll never be able to afford this. They want over $1 million anyway. Somehow or other, we were showing Prabhupada. So we were going on the morning walk, and I think Madhavisa and someone else, they were talking about the Prabhupada was asking questions, and Whitman and Madhavisa said, we're thinking of buying this property, Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, and he stopped. He was silent. Then he started walking again, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And then he started asking, so what is their asking price? Everyone stopped. They want over $1 million. So I thought that when Prabhupada heard that, he would say, no possibility of getting this property, but he was very serious. And he kept asking different questions as we were walking. So I could see from that, I learned from that nothing was outside of the scope of Prabhupada's plan. And we didn't know how, we didn't have any money, not that type of money anyway, but Prabhupada was serious. And later on he asked to see the inside grounds and walk through the buildings. So that was arranged, and he was walking through. Later on, after that visit, we learnt that this particular order would only sell us the property if we would demolish the chapel. They didn't want us to use the chapel. So Prabhupada said, let them demolish it. We won't demolish the chapel. How is this? He said, if they want to demolish it, just see. He said, they can demolish, but we'll never demolish. Later on, because they refused to sell us that property except for that condition, we informed Prabhupada after. This was after he left. We informed Prabhupada that it was not possible really to get that property. So later we were looking at this property we're in now, and we told Prabhupada that it was smaller. And then Prabhupada says, well, sometimes smaller is better. So he came and opened this temple here, and he was very pleased by that. Devotees were trying to bring some important people to meet Prabhupada because he'd requested that. So, like some ministers of government, heads of departments, ministers of religion, even I think a bishop came, and someone from the Catholic Church, a high official from the Catholic Church. So Prabhupada was sitting and preaching to all these people. And then someone brought in a gentleman, and he came into the room. I don't know, someone announced he's such and such, and gave his title. And he sat down, and Prabhupada looked up. He was behind his desk. He said, you have any questions? So this man, I was looking at him. This man is just sitting there, and he was wide-eyed, like that. He looked a little unstable, actually, to me. He looked wide. He didn't say anything. He was just silent. And Prabhupada just began preaching to him. He didn't wait for any reply. I mean, the man was silent. He didn't say anything. So he probably just started preaching, about not the body, very kind of basic, or part and parcel of God. Name of God is Krishna. And he went on and on and on and on. Long time. And the gentleman was just sitting there, didn't say anything. And then at the end, he had that man had that same expression. His face is wide-eyed, just looking at Prabhupada like this. And then Prabhupada stopped and he said, so, give him some prasadam. So some devotee gave him had some fruit or something on a plate. They thanked him for coming. He still didn't say anything. The whole time he didn't say anything. And then they let him outside. Then after he left, Prabhupada turned to the devotees and said, that man was ghostly possessed. And I've been thinking there's something strange with him, but Prabhupada immediately, he knew. But still, the wonder of it was that he just preached to him. He wasn't phased his condition or anything. I mean, he'd been brought in as a guest, and Prabhupada treated him as a guest, no matter what his condition was, and I could see that. And then all other, Prabhupada talked to many different types of people, and all of them he treated them as guests very cordially, very respectfully. Of course, one time there was a professor was invited, and he began to challenge, and especially challenge the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, and challenge the devotees. And I think Guru Kripa was there at the time, standing next to Prabhupada, and he protested. He said, look, you're coming, and now we brought you to meet our spiritual master, and now you're starting to insult him. And Prabhupada wasn't saying anything at this point. And just trying to think what the exchange there was quite dramatic. That he said, that the professor said something to the effect that you people pose yourself as knowing everything, and then he was talking to Guru Kripa, and when he was talking to Guru Kripa, and then he started to take an insulting kind of mood to Guru Kripa, then Prabhupada responded back. He said, we are posing as knowing everything, or you are posing as knowing everything? We are narrow, or you are narrow? So then the moment was very tense. There was a kind of a silence. But then, just as that moment came, Prabhupada just changed the whole mood around. I said, anyway, and then he started speaking very respectfully to him. And then by the end of the discussion, this man went away, very grateful that he came. Although in the beginning, obviously, he'd come to sort of challenge, and he was a bit agitated by the devotees, and I think that was his mood when he initially came, to actually challenge Prabhupada. But Prabhupada was so expert that he just changed his whole mood around. He defeated his challenge, and simultaneously, this man went away respectful to Prabhupada. Incredible. I was on Sankirtan actually, in plainclothes, doing plainclothes Sankirtan. I came back, and there was this kind of big crowd had assembled, and we used to do Sankirtan. We had a centre downtown. We would come back for lunch and things like that. And a couple of doors up from our place, I noticed there was smoke coming out of this building, flames were coming out, and there were some women, screaming out, help, help. And one of them, I think, was on the ledge or something like that. Apparently the fire had come up the stairwell and blocked their exit. And they were up on a 3rd floor. So myself and I think Yasso, another devotee, we were both out and saying, we came back, we were looking up, and these girls, they were just young girls actually, they were just like 19 or 20, they were screaming, help, help us. The fire brigade hadn't arrived. We must have we came back just at that time when it was all happening, and the fire brigade hadn't arrived yet. So they were screaming, it's coming up the stair, it's coming closer, like that. So I was looking at Yasso, he's looking at me, and we ran back to the shop, and I said, and in the shop there, all the preparations were going on for the Rath Yatra parade. There was all sorts of things all over the floor, and the Manajis were working on the canopy for the Rath cart, putting on the finishing touches, and I think Yasso said, quick, give us that canopy. Right, and we got this huge canopy, you know, the Rath Yatra cart canopy that covers the top part of the cart. So we got it, and we took it out in the street, and we spread it out. And we got a bunch of karmis. I guess there was like half a dozen devotees came out, and a whole bunch of karmis were there, and we spread it out all over real tight, and it went out round. Like sometimes you see these firemen, they get these kind of round tarpaulin things, and people jump on them. So we were thinking like that they could jump onto this thing. So we held it out and we stretched it right out, and then we all going, jump, jump. So the girls, they didn't want to jump, you know. Obviously it was a long way from up there to down there onto this thing. They didn't know what to make of it. Jump, jump, jump. And I remember one girl said, no, I don't want to jump. So I think that girl didn't jump. She went out the back and tried to get across to another building or something like that. But one girl did jump, to my amazement, because I actually thought they wouldn't jump. But anyway, so she did jump. She came flying down, boom. And it was okay. The canopy, Lord Jagannath's canopy, had saved her. The canopy had held. I mean, she didn't drop through the canopy and splatter on the ground or anything. So, you know, all the devotees, Haribo, and all the karmis, you know, they, hey, like this, you know. And then, now I think there was one or two, a couple jumped. And then somehow the press had arrived already by that stage. They were taking photos. The fire brigade arrived just after that, and I think anyone else who was left in the building, they got out. But later that night, it was reported to Prabhupada. And the next day, it kind of that story made the front page of practically all the papers here in Melbourne, and actually even in other cities, and it got into the front page of one national paper. And it said, Hare Krishna's saved women from blazing inferno, words to that effect. So Prabhupada was very happy. He was very happy when he actually told the devotees to get all the clips and save the clips. He wanted a copy of those clips, and he wanted to take them with him. And he said, this is very good. This is very good for our reputation. So it was an interesting story that I remember. Jai Anilo Premadana Koruna Prachu